Amba is a member organization, and most of our members are driver license agencies. They issue driver licenses. And when this came out, we started talking about, the members said it's very important to them to have an interoperable solution. If each issuing authority did their own thing, they envisioned quite a number of problems. So they approached Amba and asked Amba to take the lead on their behalf in working in this space, in coming up with a standard that would support interoperability. I'd perhaps first like to explain what a mobile driver license is not. A mobile driver license is not just a picture of your driver's license on your phone. A mobile driver license is the use of your mobile device. You leverage your mobile device to effect the transfer of your driver license information, either directly or indirectly, to a participant, and the participant then authenticates that information electronically. That would be a driver's license in a nutshell. In the case of a physical driver's license, your traditional driver's license, you check the security features by looking at it, variable printing, or feeling the tactile features on the physical driver's license to see that all the security features are there and that they are intact, and therefore the driver's license is good. In the case of an electronic driver's license, there's no concept of a tactile feature. You can't feel your phone and say, yes, the driver's license is good. To the extent that visual features might be incorporated in a display, they're typically very easy to reproduce. So that makes tactile and visual features just not applicable in the case of a mobile driver's license. And therefore the only option then is to take the electronic data that you have, that you transmit, and authenticate that to confirm that the driver's license is good. There are actually two ISO groups working on mobile driver license related standards at this point. They consist of representatives from across the world representing various interests such as driver license agencies, industry, and law enforcement. At this time, the focus of the standardization is on what we call the attended case. The attended case is when you use your driver's license in a setting such as proving your driving privilege to a law enforcement officer. That is in contrast to the unattended case, which is, for example, using your driver's license over the internet. So right now the focus is within the standardization to come up with a standard for the attended case. So while on this topic about standardization, I'd like to quickly point out a number of features that we're working on within our standardization effort. The first very important feature is that we're designing our solution such that it is not necessary for someone who wants to authenticate your driver's license to physically handle your device. It's built in that the data is transferred without that physical contact being required by the verifying entity. Secondly, since we have been thinking about data privacy from the beginning, we have built in the idea of data minimization. Data minimization means that when, as an mDL holder, you share information, you can limit the information that you want to share. For example, you can share just the fact that you have the privilege to drive a particular type of vehicle. We can go even beyond that, and you could be able to share just your age, or even just the fact that I'm older than a certain age. And that is a huge improvement over how driver licenses are often used today. The next feature is that a mobile driver's license will be usable even if both the verifying entity and the mobile driver's license do not have network access at the time when the transaction occurs. We call it the offline mode. So the solution will work even if you have an offline scenario. It's also important to understand that the solution does not require the verifying entity in any way to trust the device of the mDL holder. Trust is established by the verifying entity in the data that comes across by using what we call the public key of the issuing authority. The verifying entity trusts the public key, uses the public key to authenticate the information coming from the mDL, and that's where the root of the trust lies, definitely not in the device that the mDL holder uses. And lastly, the freshness of the data that comprises an mDL is vastly better than what we have in the case of a physical card. The issuing authority can decide, for example, that the data it provisions onto a mobile driver's license is valid for, say, 4 weeks, and after 4 weeks it's not good anymore and the data has to be refreshed. We also have an even faster model called the online model, where whenever the mDL is used, the data comes directly from the issuing authority, and in that case the freshness really is instantaneous. There is no lag between when the data was produced by the issuing authority and when the verifying entity gets to read the data. Given that phone features vary widely, we're standardizing 2 basic user experiences. The first experience is what we like to refer to as our standard experience, and that's where you'll take your phone, you'll tap it on a reader. On your phone there'll be a message popping up saying this particular reader wants to have access to the following information. You'll say, yes, I'm willing to share this information if you are, and the information will automatically be transmitted to the verifying entity. This mode of operation requires the phone and the reader to be able to use the NFC technology, as well as a longer range radio frequency technology such as Bluetooth Low Energy or Wi-Fi aware. The fallback mechanism or method of interaction would require a request coming from someone who wants your information, for that request to come in a verbal manner. Someone asks you for your date of birth. You would go into your app on your phone, you would say, I am willing to release my date of birth to someone. The app would generate a 2-dimensional barcode. The mDL holder will show the 2-dimensional barcode to a reader that can read 2-dimensional barcodes. And the reader would read the barcode. The barcode doesn't contain the information yet. The barcode just contains enough information to set up a subsequent radio frequency connection with the reader, and that connection is then used to exchange the information. So from a user experience point of view, you'll go into your app, you'll say, I want to share information, this is what I want to share. A QR code will be displayed on your device. You'll show the QR code to the reader, and that will be the end of the transaction from a user experience point of view. The main answer to that question in one word is interoperability. If, for example, you had each issuing authority, say in North America, issue their own mDL solution, it means that every reader in North America that wants to read other driver licenses issued on the continent would have to know exactly what each issuing authority's solution looks like and how it works. Absent standardization, that creates a huge barrier for interoperability. The second big advantage is cost. If you have a standard solution, it means that vendors can use the same solution for different issuing authorities without having to build custom solutions for each issuing authority. And those cost savings, because of competition then, is passed on to the issuing authorities and, in most cases, to the eventual mDL holders. If we were to follow that approach, it means that if you have an mDL issued in, say, North America, and you wanted to use that elsewhere in the world, you would not be able to do so, and vice versa for someone coming from abroad. So it really, again, is about interoperability across international borders. The cost example I just mentioned is equally as applicable in this case, since you have many vendors today that are international in scope. So if you have cost savings on a standardized solution in North America, those cost savings will spill over into implementations and vendors implementing in elsewhere in the world, for example in Europe. So I mentioned earlier that we're currently focusing on the attended case. In parallel with that, but right now with slightly lower priority, we're also looking at the unattended case. That is, for example, where I'm using my mDL to buy merchandise over the internet to prove that I'm of a certain age. There are quite a few challenges with that solution, but we're cautiously optimistic that we're finding very good solutions for them. Among other things, we think that we can improve data minimization even to the extent that when I use my mDL in the unattended case, I would not have to share my portrait image to verify that it is me who you're dealing with. So it's a very exciting development indeed.